Thandiwe, good afternoon, and thank you so much for your time. So as I mentioned, we really have these activities and dialogues that take place during 16 days of activism. Is this ever enough?
Yes, all the different activities, dialogues and events are enough. They are very, very powerful in informing communities about the different forms of abuse, where to get help, and how all of us can play a part in addressing the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide in our country.
Well, with that said then, what more do you think needs to be done in order for the conversations to keep moving beyond the 16 days campaign?
We definitely need to improve our criminal justice system. Many survivors complain that there isn't enough proper follow-up on cases. There isn't enough discipline towards police who pay bribes to perpetrators or who do not treat gender-based violence survivors with the professional service and compassion they deserve. So there definitely needs greater improvement of the criminal justice system. We also need to be providing more skills development opportunity to gender-based violence survivors. Many GBV survivors end up staying in abusive relationships because they are financially dependent on their abusive partners. So through providing skills development opportunities, they can generate an income, and this makes it easier for them to leave abusive relationships. We also need to be providing more counseling and sheltering services in rural communities. And definitely, we also need to ensure that we raise our children in non-violent households so that they don't go on to think that abuse is normal and then go on to either become abusers themselves or to be more susceptible to being abused because they view abuse as normal. So the relationships within the home affect every relationship outside the home. Peace in the home is peace in the world. So we need to ensure to raise our children in non-violent households.
Now, of course, as the people opposing women abuse, have you seen any achievements happening within this period for this particular year of this campaign?
One major achievement is we have run the very successful Donate Your Voice campaign together with Unilever tea brand Joko. So as part of this campaign, we are getting various celebrities, influencers, DJs to read the stories and poems of the various verbal, emotional, psychological abuse that gender-based violence survivors have suffered. So the main aim behind this campaign is to show that behind the terrible statistics around GBV that we so often hear and read about, there are real women with real stories and real pain. So through this campaign, we are encouraging women to end the silence surrounding domestic violence, and we are showing women that they aren't alone and that they can get help if they are in abusive relationships. And this campaign is also encouraging communities into action against gender-based violence.
We do, of course, often hear during the 16 days of activism, when the conversations do happen, where we are hearing more and more for the call to women when they lay a criminal charge against their abuser, not to withdraw it. Is this something that we are once again hearing, or are women actually now going through with their cases?
Yeah, so as Power, we always encourage women to go through with their cases and not to withdraw them. And this year, Power revived its legal department to provide various legal services to women to assist them in going through with their cases.
It really is an issue, isn't it? Because most of these women actually do not have that legal assistance and the financial backing for them to continue with these cases.
Yeah, so this Women's Month, we did revive our legal department. We got funding from the Ford Foundation. And if you would like legal services at Power are free of charge. You can send an email to info@power.co.za, or you can call us on 011-642-4345.
Now, we have seen also that the Gauteng Department of Community Safety has really worked in trying to have conversations with men. And as you've mentioned, you know, if there's a peaceful home, then there'll be a peaceful world. And these conversations with men around either them being the perpetrators or actually being the victims of gender-based violence, and these are important going both ways, aren't they?
Definitely, definitely. There's a wonderful organization called ADAPT that works with men who are abused and men who are abusers. So because men are generally the perpetrators of gender-based violence, it is definitely important to include them in addressing the scourge in our country.
Now, Thandiwe, do you actually see it as though the country focuses a lot on gender-based violence during these 16 days of activism, and then it kind of starts to die down from today, the 10th of December? Or is it actually a conversation that takes place every year or every day, really, in the country?
I must say that definitely the media tends to be more interested in issues around gender-based violence and femicide during Women's Month and the 16 days of activism. But as it is such a problem in our country, it's important that we have constant attention on this issue throughout the year.
And the big problem also, the big issue that needs to be consistently discussed is the issue of the LGBTQI plus community and how they feel during this time. In conversations that you've had with that community, how have they expressed their feelings during the 16 days of activism campaign against the abuse of women and children? Because they seemingly are feeling left behind.
Yeah, so we have heard that some women within this community are feeling left behind, and so it's important that NGOs within the gender-based violence sector collaborate with them in running campaigns and events around issues of gender-based violence and femicide.
And do we know anything more about the anti-GBV plan that was put together by the president, how far he is in that?
Well, I know with the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, they do look a lot at economic empowerment of women. As I was saying earlier, many women end up staying with abusive partners because they're financially dependent on them. So we definitely need more work on economic empowerment of women. And then another issue in the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide is more healing and support services. That definitely needs to be looked at. Especially in rural areas and small towns, there's definitely not enough shelters. And also another issue that's looked at in the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide is the whole issue of the criminal justice system being improved. So those are three sectors that definitely need improvement.
I'm glad you mentioned the issue of the criminal justice system, because in most conversations that one would have with a woman that has been abused, they would speak about the kind of treatment that they would actually get from the police themselves. As Power, what do you encourage the women to do when they go to the police station and the treatment is not what they were expecting?
Well, if they don't receive the treatment they expected, we say go with your social worker to the police station, and the social worker will assist you. So we definitely find as soon as a GBV survivor comes through with a social worker wearing a Power t-shirt, she does get much better assistance. But that's a pity because Power only does have offices in Gauteng. So police should do their jobs properly, whether the social worker is there or not.
Definitely. That is
Last year, we actually, as Power, we handed memorandums to the Minister of Police, Becky Tsele, and Advocate Shamila Batoy, calling for the criminal justice system to better support gender-based violence survivors.
So that was last year then, Thandiwe. What response have you gotten from those two institutions?
Well, I can't really say. I'd have to speak to the legal department around that. But even since the march that we had during the 16 days of activism, where we did hand over these memorandums, we constantly push for the criminal justice system to support survivors.
And then just your final words as people opposing women abuse as we wrap up the 16 days of activism against women, against violence of women and children.
As Power, we'd like to say abuse is not and never okay. And if you are in an abusive relationship, help from Power is just an email, a phone call, or a message away. You can contact us on 011-642-4345 or at counseling@power.co.za, or you can receive counseling on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter platforms. All our counseling services are free of charge, and it's important to remember that the fight against gender-based violence and femicide lies with us all.
Before I let you go, Thandiwe, the issue of abuse, when we speak about abuse, some people might not necessarily see certain things as them being abused or in an abusive relationship. Just highlight some of the things that people should look out for.
It's important to look out for being controlled and also having too much affection put on you. So if a partner doesn't let you go out with your friends, wants to spend all the time with you, that's a definite red flag. That's obsession. That isn't love. And also constant phoning every day, wanting to check up on you, that's another red flag. It's very easy to confuse that, oh, he loves me so much, that's why he's phoning me all the time. That's why he doesn't want me to spend time with my friends, he wants to spend all the time with me. But that's unhealthy. It's important to look out for that. And also subtle put downs. Some women say, oh no, maybe he wasn't really being so bad, I'm being so sensitive. But it's important to always listen to your gut and remember that if it feels wrong, it is wrong.
That was Communications Manager at People Opposing Women Abuse, Thandiwe McCloy. Thank you so much for your time.